Imagine if your subconscious could speak to you in words, rather than in flashes of emotion, a tight feeling in your chest, or a recurring situation you find yourself in over and over again. What do you think it would say? Scream? Cry? Or just whisper what it's been trying to tell you for years? I'm not trying to stop you. I'm trying to protect you. We have been told that the subconscious is a set of limitations, that it is what holds us back, sabotages our progress, and makes us repeat past mistakes. But the truth is much more beautiful and perhaps ugly. The subconscious is not your enemy, but your most faithful witness, the part of you that has never forgotten the pain that still echoes with the unresolved, the unseen, the unloved. And here is the quantum truth. The field does not respond to what you want. It responds to what your subconscious is broadcasting constantly, consistently, and with absolute honesty. While your conscious mind is trying to manifest abundance, love, purpose, your subconscious may still be holding a frequency of lack, rejection, and fear. Not because it wants to punish you, but because it remembers how that frequency once protected you. It remembers the moment you chose to remain silent instead of speaking up. It remembers the time you dimmed your light to survive in this world. It remembers the belief that being invisible is the only way to be accepted. And now every time you try to break that pattern, every time you come close to something else, your subconscious pulls you back. Not because it hates your evolution, but because it fears you will forget what once protected you. This video is a message, but not just from me. It is a transcript of the messages you have been sending yourself through your patterns, your pain, your pauses. It is a guide to understanding why you are stuck even when you have done everything right. You have journaled, visualized, meditated, read books, repeated affirmations, listened to all the quantum explanations of manifestation, and you still go in circles. You still crash right before the finish line. You still doubt yourself even when you are trying to vibrate at the highest frequency. If this is you, this is your video. In this video, we explore why your subconscious is not actually sabotaging you, but communicating with you. Every hesitation, every circle, every time you pull back just before you jump is not a failure, it is a language. It is your system trying to tell you something you haven't heard yet. And the quantum field doesn't just read your thoughts or your energy on the surface, it reflects your unresolved emotional signatures, echoes of past experiences that are still vibrating beneath the surface of your intentions. We will talk about why fear and resistance almost always increase before a breakthrough, and how this is not a sign that something is wrong, but a sign that something is awakening. We will delve into what it really means to break old patterns, not just rethink them mentally, but to release their grip on your body, your nervous system, and your vibrational identity. And most importantly, we will begin to understand how to tune your energetic signal, not from a place of fear, but from the frequency of your future self. A place that feels grounded, embodied, and stable, not forced. By the end of this video, you will see yourself differently because it is not about fixing you. It is about listening to the parts of you that you have been ignoring and realizing that they were not holding you back. They were holding your attention until you were ready to listen. So before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself something. Not with your mind, but with your body, the part of you that speaks the language of emotion. What is the pattern that keeps coming up? Not because you are failing, but because it is still trying to say something. What keeps coming back? Not to punish you, but to protect you from jumping too far, too fast, without integrating. That is where we will begin. The subconscious doesn't speak in words, it speaks in memories, rhythm, patterns. It runs you through the same experiences, not because you're cursed, not because you're weak, but because it's trying to keep you close to what's familiar. That's what safety has meant for most of your life. The familiar, even if that familiar is pain, rejection, scarcity, or silence. To the subconscious, the known is safe. This is where the quantum field comes into play, because the field, like the subconscious, does not judge, it reflects. It receives the energetic signal you are broadcasting and responds accordingly, amplifying the state that your body and heart are most familiar with. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about manifestation. We think the universe is holding something back. We think we are being tested or ignored. But in reality, the quantum field is deeply loyal. It reflects you back with absolute precision. And if the subconscious is still attached to old frequencies, the field will show you reflections of those frequencies over and over again. It is not punishment. It is alignment. It is vibration made visible. It is energy seeking resolution. According to Bruce Lipton, your subconscious is not just a mental structure. It is a biological structure stored in your nervous system, in your cells, in your posture, your breathing, your tone of voice. Everything you do is a continuation of the patterns you absorbed from childhood, culture, trauma, and repetition. In the field, as Deepak Chopra describes, is the unified mind that responds to the language of feelings more than the language of thoughts. So when your body carries a vibration of abandonment, even if your mind is asking for love, the field senses that disconnect and reflects back what is encoded deeper. And yet, none of this is permanent. The beauty of the quantum field is that it is always available for reconfiguration. Just as you can broadcast fear, you can broadcast trust. Just as you can repeat survival, you can radiate expansion. The signal can be changed, but only when you are aware of what it is saying in the moment. The problem is that most people try to drown out their subconscious with positive thinking. They layer affirmations on top of unresolved trauma. They meditate to escape their body instead of facing it. They visualize a future they don't truly believe they deserve. And the field doesn't listen to your words, it listens to your resonance. Joe Dispenza teaches that the field responds to a coherent signal, where thought, feeling, and action are aligned. And if your thoughts speak of abundance, but your emotions are still gripped by fear, and your body is cringing with shame, your signal is fragmented, inconsistent, and the field can only reflect what is stable within you. What do most people experience? The same attitude over and over again, the same moments of self-doubt, the same financial plateau, the same inner voice saying, "It's not time yet, it's not enough, don't go too far." And they think they're broken, but they're really stuck, still vibrationally connected to a previous version of themselves that learned to survive in limitation. The field doesn't hold you there, it just meets you there. Let's be clear. Think of the field as a frequency tuner. It doesn't care what you ask for, it tunes in to what you are. So if your subconscious is stuck in a belief that good things never last, the field isn't punishing you, it's showing you situations where good things start and then disappear. Not because you're showing failure, but because you haven't changed the deeper belief that keeps broadcasting instability. Here is an invitation. What if this resistance you feel is not a failure, but a message? What if those moments when you retreat are not signs of weakness, but signals that your field is trying to resolve something unresolved? What if repetition is communication? The subconscious wants integration, it wants release, but it cannot do it through suppression or control. It can only do it when you slow down enough to hear the vibration beneath the thought. And the field, in its infinite intelligence, will continue to teach you the same lesson until you respond with a new signal. Not from strength, but from recognition, from presence, from embodiment. So when life keeps offering you the same experience over and over again, not because you want it, but because you haven't heard it fully yet, it's not personal, it's not punishment, it's not sabotage, it's the most accurate, compassionate reflection of what still needs your presence. Patterns don't repeat to trap you, they repeat to reveal what hasn't yet been seen with new eyes, felt with an open heart, or held without resistance. They don't return to break you, they return to reveal something. Your subconscious isn't pulling you back to stop you, it's pulling you in to rewire you. Because once the message is heard not just by your mind, but by your entire field, you stop going in circles, the signal changes. And when the signal changes, your reality changes. There's a reason why you feel the most fear, the most resistance, the deepest doubt right before something finally changes. That intense inner contraction, that sudden wave of, maybe I'm not ready, is not weakness. It's a sign that your system is recalibrating. Because when you start to break the vibrational agreement you made with your past, when you stop resonating with the old frequency that once kept you safe, Your subconscious doesn't just quietly step aside, it speaks up, not to punish you, but to make sure you've really heard everything it's been trying to teach you. Every time you get closer to the version of yourself that loves fully, creates freely, receives easily, you can feel it. Something rises, a voice, a fear, a feeling in your chest that says, don't go there. It's not safe. It's not for you. And we often interpret that as a block. But what if it's not a block at all? What if it's the part of you that survived that says, are you sure we don't need this armor anymore? We live in a culture obsessed with forward movement, high vibration, constant growth, breakthrough, leveling up. But we forget that true transformation doesn't just come from moving forward. It comes from turning back and picking up the parts of ourselves that we abandoned in order to survive. Your subconscious is not trying to recreate the past, it's trying to complete it. And that last emotional wave before your breakthrough is your body releasing the very frequency that has held you in place for so long. This is where most people go in circles. They take this emotional surge as proof that they are failing, that they are regressing, or that they are not aligned enough. So they retreat, they go back to the old relationship, they go back to the old belief, they dull themselves again. And the cycle continues, not because they are unable to move, but because they misinterpret the latest signal as a warning rather than a release. Think of it as a quantum echo. When you move away from an old vibration and into a new one, the old frequency doesn't just disappear, it echoes. It screams at you one last time, not to pull you back, but to ask, have you truly outgrown me, or am I still part of your identity? And your answer isn't in your words, it's in what you choose next, in how you respond when everything in you wants to retreat to comfort. But something deeper in you knows that comfort is a cage. You're not just letting go of an external pattern, you're letting go of the version of yourself that built its world around that pattern. And mourning that version is part of the change. Feeling sad, hesitant, trembling from being in the new energy is not weakness. It is proof that something real is happening, that your subconscious is being rewired not only intellectually, but emotionally, that you are releasing frequency and not just memory. And the quantum field listens carefully at that moment, because that is when your signal is at its purest. Not when you sing affirmations on a good day, but when you are in the middle of an old storm and you consciously decide not to fall into the past again. That moment of choice, small, quiet, internal, sends a surge across the field. It says to the universe, this time I am not reacting, this time I am choosing who I am becoming, and the field responds accordingly, not always instantly, not always with fireworks, but with an alignment, precision, and expansion that matches your new alignment. So if you feel insecure, if you are in a spiral, if things seem heavier emotionally than usual, maybe you are not breaking. Maybe you are breaking through. Because the subconscious does not give in easily, it is asking you to prove, not by perfection, but by presence, that you are ready to live in a new frequency. And that proof is not something you demonstrate, it is something you embody. Now ask yourself, when I feel myself slipping back into the same story, what am I really being asked to hear? What part of me is rising up not to punish, but to be seen, to be honored, to be gently released? Because once you hear it clearly, it no longer has to repeat itself. The circle dissolves and you move on. The subconscious doesn't stop talking just because we try to move on. It doesn't get quieter just because we decide we're done with the past. In fact, the more you try to suppress it, the louder it gets. Not through words, but through emotion, through discomfort, through self-sabotage disguised as delay, doubt, or distraction. That's why healing isn't about shouting affirmations over the noise. It's about learning how to listen differently. Because underneath every repetitive pattern is a question. And the moment you stop trying to fix it and start listening to it instead, everything starts to change. What if that doubt that hits you late at night isn't your enemy, but your younger self asking, will I still be loved if I succeed? What if that recurring resistance to receiving isn't because you're unworthy, but because part of you still believes that receiving means being owed? What if the very things that keep you stuck are just stories waiting to be acknowledged? This is what Deepak Chopra talks about when he says that true transformation begins with awareness, not force. And it's what Bruce Lipton echoes when he reminds us that belief systems aren't just thoughts, they're biological imprints. They live in your nervous system, in your reactions, in your ability to remain still when discomfort arises. So if you want to change your outer world, start with how you meet your inner responses. The more you fight resistance, the stronger it becomes. But when you meet it with presence, with breath, with awareness, it softens. Because the subconscious never screams for change, it whispers for connection. This is where quantum presence comes into play. You don't destroy the new timeline by visualizing harder, you destroy it by standing fully in the energy of the present moment, no matter how chaotic, confusing, or emotionally charged it may be. The version of you that is living your dream life is not avoiding difficult emotions. They have simply learned to stay regulated within them. They have stopped throwing themselves when fear speaks. They have stopped throwing themselves into survival mode when expansion causes vulnerability. This is where the real shift lies, not in avoiding discomfort, but in no longer identifying with it. So how do you begin to recalibrate your field when a signal is coming from a place you don't quite understand? Start simple. Notice what keeps coming back, not just outside, but inside your body. What thought keeps repeating when you take a risk? What emotion flares up when you're close to receiving something new? Where does tension show up when you're trying to rest? These are not obstacles, they're messages. Each one is a frequency that has been waiting for your presence, not your perfection. Begin to meet these moments differently. Instead of reacting, observe. Instead of controlling, breathe. When a familiar discomfort arises, say to yourself, I hear you. You've been keeping me safe, but I choose differently now. This internal dialogue becomes a new vibration that the field immediately registers. You don't force change, you stabilize it from within. Joe Dispenza often says that the moment you can observe a thought or an emotion without becoming it, you are no longer in the past, you are in the quantum, in the present. And from that space, new time frames become available, not just as concepts, but as felt realities. But this requires something that most people resist: patience, stillness, repetition, not effort, but return. Returning to your center every time an old frequency knocks on your door, returning to your body when your mind wants to run, returning to the truth when an old fear tries to pass itself off as logic. Now I want you to try something. Take a moment, breathe slowly, and ask yourself, what pattern keeps coming back into my life? Not because I am broken, but because it is asking to be broken consciously, lovingly, and reverently. If a word comes to you, let it stay with you. That word is your signal. That word is a vibration that is asking for your presence. Maybe it is control, or dignity, or forgiveness, or trust. There is no right answer, only honesty. And when you are ready, you can type that word in the comments. Not to prove anything, but to silently declare that you are listening now, that you are ready to meet the message beneath the noise. Not to fight it, but to finally integrate it. Because once you do, you will no longer respond to the subconscious, you will respond with awareness. And then the field will respond differently. Something powerful happens when you stop trying to become someone new and instead start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. When you stop chasing quantum shifts as if they were distant goals and start recognizing that they happen the moment you tune into the frequency of who you really are. This is not poetic language. This is physics. Frequency precedes form, emotion precedes outcome, energy organizes matter. The version of you continue to see in dreams, in brief moments of clarity, in flashes of inner knowing, that version is not imagined, it is not desired, it is now. The only thing stopping you from living that reality fully is the signal you are still sending. And now you understand where that signal is coming from. Not from your vision board, not from your conscious desires, but from the emotional code your subconscious has been running since you were too young to know you had a choice. But you have a choice now. You can choose to hear these patterns differently. You can choose to allow your nervous system to quiet even as your mind spins. You can choose to show up in those moments when the old you has collapsed or retreated or shrunk. And each of these choices is a statement to the field. I am ready to stop repeating myself. I am ready to begin to resonate. You do not have to control the quantum field. You are not here to manipulate it or trick it into giving you what you want. That is not how it works. The field does not speak by force, it speaks by alignment. And the more aligned your energy becomes, the more your heart and your mind and your body and your actions speak the same language, the more the field responds in ways that feel easy and aligned and real. But coherence doesn't come from pretending everything is okay. It comes from feeling what is real and staying grounded in the truth that you are still safe, still whole, still worthy, even in the midst of uncertainty. That is what stabilizes your frequency. That is what creates such an inner resonance that the outside world cannot help but reflect. And when the old patterns come knocking, because they will come knocking, you will not panic. You will recognize them. You will say, "Thank you for protecting me, but I don't live there anymore." And in that moment, something profound happens. Your subconscious no longer needs to scream. The circle no longer needs to repeat. The field no longer reflects fear because the signal has changed, because you have changed. You are the signal, and the field is always listening. So the real question becomes, will you choose to tune into it completely, unconditionally, and consistently until it becomes the most natural thing in the world? Because when you do that, the quantum will respond. Write in the comments a word that describes your next shift. It could be trust and flow or release or whatever feels right. Your word becomes part of your signal. And if it touches you, subscribe. Let's grow together, not from a place of power, but from a place of alignment, curiosity, and true connection. You are not alone in this. This space was created to help you remember what you've always known. You are energy, you are possibility, and you are a field in motion. And remember to not miss more such powerful insights and to reveal your potential to the maximum. Subscribe to the channel. I promise here you will find not just content, but a real key to transforming your life.